I want to talk some more about the operationalizing of this NSPM7 memo from Pam Bondi and Donald Trump. It's absolutely an extension of an authoritarian crackdown. It's attempting to make people afraid to exercise their constitutional rights. It's trying to say that, like, if you have anti-capitalist or anti-authoritarian or anti-Christian or un-American speech, that, like, they think that that's not protected and they want to make you or label you a terrorist. Specifically, they really want to label various pro-democracy organizations that are critical of the regime. They want to label those domestic terrorists. This is unsurprising. I know a lot of people are real freaked out about it. I made a video about it the other day because there was some kind of scary advancements about the way the regime is speaking about this memo and how they plan on going after their political opponents. And I realized that can feel incredibly scary. After all, we're just like regular people. We're regular Americans. We're not radical. Most of us in the pro-democracy resistance right now have never had to work to resist fascism before. So it feels really scary when maybe you have gone to some protests this year, or maybe you've joined a grassroots group who has this position of, like, actually we're opposed to fascism. Maybe you marched in hands off or No King's Day with like an anti-fascist symbol or sign. And now the Trump regime is saying, well, Antifa is a terrorist organization. We all know that Antifa is not an organization at all. It's simply a word that means anti-fascist. Tell me, who is the leader of Antifa? Who's the president? Where's the board of directors for Antifa? Where's their headquarters? They don't exist because it's simply an idea. And that idea is opposition to fascism. So when the regime is saying, oh, we want to label anybody that we deem to be part of this mythological made-up organization Antifa, we want to label them as a terrorist against the American, government, against the state of the United States. What they're clearly saying is, if you oppose fascism, you are an enemy of the government. Therefore, that makes the government what? A fascist government. Again, this is really scary, and I don't want to diminish anybody's fears. For most of us, this is the first time that we've been targeted by our government for trying to express and exercise our constitutionally protected rights. It's a very scary time because we thought we were living in the land of the free and the home of the brave. We thought we had constitutional protections. And I will keep saying it as long as it needs saying. The reason that news is really scary, the reason that this messaging, this rhetoric from the regime is so scary is because they're trying to scare you. They're trying to scare you into submission. And as I said in a video day before yesterday, I think we're not giving the regime anything that they want. They want us to obey in advance, and we're saying, fuck you, make me. There's no obeying. There's absolutely none. It's not in advance, and it's not in the future. There's no condition under which we obey fascism. There's no condition under which we hand over our rights. There's no condition under which we become collaborators. We become complicit with the regime. We must remain non-compliant with fascism. That kind of stalwart resolution must be at the core of our resistance. I think it was in a Blueprint for Revolution by Sergei Popovich. I'm looking for my copy of it, but I think my 17-year-old is reading it right now. That's one of the things he talks about is like, nobody can make you do anything. Actually, I know it seems like it, but nobody can make you do anything. Yep, someone can hold a gun to your head and threaten to kill you, but at the end of the day, you can still choose to comply or not to comply. There will be consequences one way or the other, but they cannot make you obey. And I think that's really helpful for all of us to remember in this moment. We still have agency. We still have free will. The question is, are we willing to accept the consequences? And part of resisting any authoritarian regime is that you have to be willing to take risks. You have to risk it for a biscuit. It's my grandma's saying, and I love to use it because it's so true. We have to undertake a measure of risk. Now, I have a whole lot of videos about how to do a proper risk assessment, because each of us are going to be able to take on different levels of risk. There are different jobs, different places in the resistance movement that we each plug in, where we lend our particular skills and energy and resources. And not everybody lives the same life, right? That's one of the most beautiful things about a resistance movement is that we are incredibly diverse. And that means the amount that we give, the level of risk we undertake is going to look very different for each person, but we are all maintaining our non-compliance. We are all maintaining that stalwart resolve of how is it that every action I undertake right now is an act of resistance? How is it that everything I do is through the lens of non-compliance with fascism? How is it that everything I do and my entire outlook is through the lens of justice and democracy? Even though it's really scary, they can't make you do anything. And if we have a little radical acceptance about like, yeah, okay, some of us are going to get arrested. Some of us might lose our jobs. Some of us are going to be targeted, are going to be doxxed, are going to be harassed. Like there are different consequences for what we're doing. And I honestly think it's helpful to have some radical acceptance about that, because part of any risk assessment is that we are choosing to step into resistance work with consent. We are consenting to the level of exposure that we are putting ourselves under. You're going to be much more effective if you go into it. Your resolve is going to be much stronger if you're like, oh yeah, I know I'm going up against this, and I'm choosing to accept that risk. I'm choosing to consent to a scenario where XYZ might happen to me. But then the second part of that is that people who are undertaking greater risk have to know that the community has their back, have to know that we are going to come around and support each other. That's why mutual aid is a key facet of resistance. We have to have each other's backs. If people end up arrested, we have to help them get an attorney. We have to do bail funds. We have to do care for their family. If somebody loses income, we make sure that we help them get their rent paid and we bring meals to them. We stand in the gap for anybody who is abandoned by the regime. And that's kind of what I want to bring it back around to right now when it comes to the NSPM 7. I want to read a little bit of my notes here from the Indivisible What's the Plan call from this past Thursday, because Leah from Indivisible actually talked about this very issue a little bit, and I'll say it however often it needs to be said. I think Ezra and Leah have such a strong moral compass and they're really strategic. For me, that's kind of the 1-2 punch. That's sort of my perspective as well. We need to undertake a position that is moral and strategic, and those things are not in conflict with each other. Operationalizing NSPM 7 basically means that the regime is going to attempt increased repression against political opponents. And they're framing it, again, as this crackdown against Antifa, but Antifa is not a thing. So what's really happening here is this vaguely worded memo that allows them to go after people exercising their legal constitutional rights, and also go after nonprofits, 501c3s and 501c4s that are organizing for democracy, especially to go after their sources of funding. This is a continuation of that rhetoric we've heard all year about attacks on Act Blue. So Leah was saying, Indivisible organizes out in the open, they're unashamed, they're not doing anything illegal, so they're not going to change their tactics in response to this memo. Because what's happening here is that they're making a threat. They're trying to come and grab power, claim power. They're coming up to the line and they're seeing if you step back. And if you step back, they're going to reach over the line, grab that right, that power from you, and they're going to pocket it. And they're going to say, it's ours now. Which is why it's so important that we stand our ground and we hold the line, because they want to reach over and grab this power, but we're going to stand in the way. And we're saying, no, we're not going to back up. We're not going to let you advance your cause and take away our rights. Leah went on to reiterate something that is one of my favorite talking points. The greatest danger is not the regime, it's if we shrink back from the regime. I like to say it's not so much what the regime does right now, it's how we respond. Leah went on to say we cannot shrink back. We can't be like corporate legacy media. We can't be like Columbia University. We can't be like Paul Weiss and other big law firms. We have to be smarter and recognize that what the regime is doing with their crackdown, with the really severe attempts at repression, of escalating their tactics, is that they are showing their weakness. They're showing their desperation. They are desperate to shut down civil society, including any dissent. They are desperate to take away our rights and institute authoritarianism because they're losing. They are losing their grip on power. There are fractures everywhere. And so it's that extinction burst where they are just going to try to up the repression, to up the threats and intimidation, because that's all they've got. I want you to understand this NSPM 7 memo and this rhetoric from the regime is evidence of the fact that they are really scared of us. They are really scared of an effective, organized resistance. They cannot handle political dissent. Any legitimate government can handle criticism, can handle dissent. And here's the big takeaway. If they want to go after civil society, we make it backfire on them. Have you looked at the list of NSPM 7? It's like half of the American population would be on their list. And my personal take on this is they can't investigate all of us. Instead of all of us shrinking back and being afraid, we all stand up. We all speak out. We all get on the list. Right now we show up, we defend the most vulnerable, we defend folks who are targeted, who are on that list. Huge outrage from us. What the regime is doing is entirely un-American. We protect people who are on the list, who are being targeted right now. We don't shrink back from the line. We don't let them pocket power. We hold the line in a clear, strong, consistent way. That's our response to NSPM 7.